In this video here, we are going to be going through an actual math prep test here using ASVABPracticeTest.com. This is going to be going over 16 different mathematics knowledge practice tests, mathematics knowledge questions here rather. All right, and we're going to be going through all the questions. I'm going to be explaining all of them on how I would solve it, trying to use like sort of the faster ways to solve it because again you're sort of limited on your time during the ASVAB. You also can't use a calculator during the ASVAB, so I'm going to be showing you how to do things, how to do some sort of math equations without using a calculator and all that other great stuff. And before we get into it though, the most important thing is that you are actually trying these yourselves before going through and just watching the explanation of all of them. So I highly encourage you to, when we go through a question, press pause, try and solve it on your own. If you can't get it, then go through and see the explanation. Or if you can get it, still look through the explanation. Maybe I do it a quicker way, maybe you do it a quicker way. If you do, drop it down in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll just move on from there. So first question, let's just jump right on into it. This one is to simplify. All right, we want to simplify. We have an x to the 6th, and we are multiplying that by an x to the 5th. Now, when multiplying like terms, or rather when multiplying things where the exponents are different, all we need to do is just add the exponents. It sounds a little bit weird, but we just got to remember that we are essentially distributing. So what we are saying here is when we have an x to the 6th times an x to the 5th, well, that's going to be the same as an x to the 6th plus the 5th. All right, and what that is going to do is simplify down into x to the 11th. All right, so we have that as an answer right here, and we'll just go ahead and select it. So again, we can see that really when you have x to the a times x to the b, that's the same thing as saying an x to the a plus b. So that's why we did that right there of saying x to the 6th times x to the 5th is really just x to the 5th plus 6, 5 plus 6, or x to the 11th. All right, so moving on to the next one here. This one we need to solve for x, so doing a little bit of geometry here. All right, so press pause and try and get this one on your own. All right, let's try and go through this question here now. We just need to solve for x. We just need to do a little bit of geometry. And in order to do this geometry, we need to remember our best friend, our best acronym here of PEMDAS. All right, that's a weird A, but I think you get the idea there. And that stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and subtraction, or addition and subtraction. And then remembering that the multiplication and the division, as well as the, sorry, I think I said that wrong. The multiplication and the division, as well as the addition and the subtraction, they're kind of grouped in the same category. So we're first going to do parentheses, then we're going to do exponents, then we're going to do either multiplication or division, whatever comes first, left to right. And then we're going to do either addition or subtraction, again, whatever comes first, left to right. All right, so we just got to remember PEMDAS there. So let's go ahead and rewrite this equation here. We have 3 times the x plus 1. All right, and that's going to equal our 5 times x minus 2 plus 7. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is multiply this 3 times this parentheses here. And in order to do that, remember we need to distribute. So that's going to be a 3 times x plus our 3 times 1, which is just 3. And now let's go ahead and work on the right side. Same thing. Multiplying something by a parentheses, you need to multiply that thing by each item in that parentheses. So again, we need to distribute this 5 to the x and to the negative 2. So that's going to be 5x, and then 5 times negative 2 is a negative 10. And then we just tack on the plus 7 at the end there. All right, now let's try and group like terms together here. We can do subtract 3 on this side, and if we were to do that, we'd subtract 3 over here. So now we're saying a negative 10 minus 3 more is going to give us a negative 13, negative 13 plus our 7, so, thinking like our number line here, if we're back, if here is 0, using our number line, right here is 0, we're all the way back here at negative 13, and now we need to go up 7 more. We're adding 7, so we're going up 7 more, and that will just give us to a negative 6. All right, so we'll have a negative 6 down here. We still have our 5x right here, so we'll drop that down. The plus 3 and the negative 3 canceled out, so now we're just left with a 3x equals 5x minus 6. All right, well, let's go ahead and get x over on one side here. So we're going to say subtract 5x over here, subtract 5x over here. The 5x's will cancel out, and now we have 3x minus 5x. So we have 3 of something, and we're taking away 5, so we're actually left with negative 2x here equals a negative 6. Well, right now we only have a negative 2x and we only have a negative 6. So both of all things that we have right now are negative. So we really can just transform them all to positive. And now we're just going to say 2x equals 6. Well, now it's really simple. Just divide by 2, divide by 2. The 2's will cancel out. That'll give us an x equals 6 divided by 2 is 3. So our final answer is 3. All right, and go ahead and select that one as the correct answer, and they kind of just show you, they walk you through everything, making sure that you are following PEMDAS correctly. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Yes, delete all the content. Perfect. All right. And now if y equals 3ab plus 2b cubed, what is y when a equals 1 and b equals 2? All right, so press pause and try and figure this one out on your own real quick. All right, let's go ahead and try and go through this one together now. All they're really asking us for is solve for y, because they're giving us the value of a, and they're giving us the value of b. So all we need to do is substitute those values back in to our equation here. So we're going to rewrite the equation now as 3, and then instead of a, I'm going to substitute in 1. And now that's going to also be multiplied by b, but instead of b, I'm going to substitute in 2. And that's going to be a plus 2, substitute in b, which again is 2, and that b is cubed, right? Cubed, yep. So 2 to the third. All right, so now let's work on our parentheses. Again, we need to remember PEMDAS here, so let's work on our parentheses. Inside this parentheses, we need to do that cube. So that is 2 times 2 times 2. All right, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. All right, so 2 cubed is 8. And then bring that 2 down. Bring everything down really, just for clarity here. All right, and now we can just do this multiplication here. That is a 3 times a 1 times a 2. So 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So I can rewrite this now as 6 plus 2 times 8. All right. Multiplication again, 2 times 8. That's going to give us 16. So now it is a 6 plus 16. And that is just going to give us our final answer of 22. All right, so let's go ahead and select 22, and there we go. And again, they're telling you just to substitute in the values back into the equation and solve for y. Let's move on to the next one here. All right, clear my workspace. A rectangle is cut in half to create 2 squares that each has an area of 25. What is the perimeter of the original rectangle? All right, so a little bit of geometry here. Go ahead and press pause and try and solve this one on your own. All right, so hopefully you were able to at least attempt that, maybe even get the correct answer or a answer. Let's go through together and try and solve it here. So I see this as a geometry problem, and a lot of times, right off the bat, when I see a geometry problem, I like to just draw out diagrams, because I just sort of like to, I can see and think of things better whenever I can see a diagram of it. So they're giving us a rectangle here. All right, and this rectangle is cut in half to create 2 squares, where each square has an area of 25. All right, so each square has an area of 25. And now we want to know what is the perimeter of the original rectangle. All right, so we're given the area of one square, and we need to know the perimeter of the entire rectangle. All right, so in order to do that, we need to kind of understand what is the relationship between the area of a square and its perimeter. Well, the area of a square, how do we even calculate the area of a square? The area of a square, or the area of any rectangle, is going to be length times width. All right, length times width. What is unique about a square is that each side is exactly the same length, or is exactly the same size, right? So really, instead of length times width, I can really kind of just say that is really going to be side times side is going to equal 25, because we're given our area of one of the squares is 25. So another way of saying side times side, anything multiplied by itself, really just means it is squared. So s squared equals 25. And I'm going to replace s for side with just x, because that could get confused with 5 there. So really I'm going to say x squared equals 25. And now I want to solve for x. When I have something that is squared and I want to solve for x, well, I need to take the square root of it. So I will take the square root of x squared, and that means I need to take the square root of 25, and that's just going to give me x equals 5. And again, remember, x was one of the sides. So now I know that one of the sides of this square here is 5. So if I write 5 right here, well, if that side is 5, square has all the same sides, so I know this bottom side is also 5 here, and I know this one is 5. Well, these two squares are equivalent, so I know that this is, 5, and this is 5, and this is 5. And now we can see I have all segments of the perimeter here, so now I just need to add up all these 5s together. I have 1 5, 2 5s, 3 5s, 4 5s, 5 5s, and 6 5s, or 6 times 5. If I add up all those 5s together, I have 6 of them, so 6 times 5 equals 30. So our perimeter is going to be 30. That is an answer here, that is C, so I will select C over here, and it shows you the correct answer. They kind of go through a similar explanation, telling you side by side, side times side equals the area, and then they just kind of add up all the sides to get the perimeter. So yeah, that's how I would solve that one. All right, let's move on to the next one here. 44 is 80% of what number? All right, 44 is 80% of what number? So I like to see these ones as fractions. All right, so we're saying that we are actually first, go ahead and press pause and try this one out on your own, knowing I gave you a little bit of a hint already on how I would solve it. All right, hopefully you tried that one out on your own. This is the way I would solve it, is I like to think of these type of problems in terms of fractions. So we are given 44, the number 44, and we are saying that is 80% of a different number. So we have a different number which equals 100% of what we have, but our 44 is only equal to 80% of that number. So now I have two fractions here which are supposed to be equivalent. So again, how do we solve for equivalent fractions? We need to cross multiply. So I'm going to take this 100 times the 44, and that's going to give us 4,400. And I'm going to take the 80 times the x, that's going to equal 80x. And now I have this equation here, right? I just need to solve for x. I need to figure out what this number is here. So I need to solve for x. All right, so I'm saying 4,400 equals 80x. I can't do that in my head, and I can't use a calculator on the ASVAB, so we need to do some long division here. So we're going to say 4,400, put that inside, and we're given 80 here. All right, so can 80 go into 4? No, it cannot. All right, so move on to the next number. Can 80 go into 44? No, it cannot. So move into the next number. Can 80 go into 440? Well, yes, it can. It can go in at least 5 times. All right, let me get rid of that arrow here. It can go in at least 5 times. Make sure, again, we're keeping it right above the number that we're on here. So 5 times 80, that equals 400. And now we subtract these. All right, 440 minus 400, that's going to give us 40. And then we ask again, can 80 go into 40? No, it cannot. So we need to drop that last 0 down. And now, can 80 go into 400? Yes, it can. We already figured that out. It can go in exactly 5 times. 5 times 80, again, is 400. We subtract that, and we're left with 0, so we have no remainder. All right, so 80 can go into 4,400 exactly 55 times, which means that x equals 55 here. All right, so x equals 55, and really that just means that this number here then equals 55. So 44 is 80% of 55. And we see that as a correct answer. They do it a little bit differently, I guess. They say, which makes sense too. They would say 80%, you divide 80%, so 44 divided by 80%. If you want to go through that type of math as well, you would get the same answer. I happen to use cross multiplication. That's usually my go-to. That's how I would have solved it. If you have a different way of how you would have solved it, drop it down in the comments below. Let's move on to the next one here. All right. What is the value of the expression? What is the value of the expression given below here? All right. So this is just a basic algebra problem. We just need to figure out what the value is here. So press pause and try and solve for this one here. All right, so hopefully you tried that one out on your own. Again, this is just a basic expression here that we need to solve the answer for. So we just need to remember PEMDAS. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the expression here. I'm going to say 26 minus 7 times 3 plus 5 divided by 4 and then plus 2. All right, so first thing we need to work on is this parentheses. So we can rewrite this now as 26 minus 7 times 8 divided by 4 plus 2. All right, now we can work on the next thing. We don't have any exponents, so we need to work on the multiplication and division. Going from left to right, we'll do the multiplication first. So that's going to be 26 minus, that's going to be minus 56. Minus 56 divided by 4 plus 2. All right. Now we say 26 minus 56 divided by 4 plus 2. So next thing here is our division. So we will now say 26 minus 56 divided by 4. What is that? 56 divided by 4. 4 goes into 5 one time. 1 times 4 equals 4. Subtract, we get 1. 4 can't go into 1, so we drop that 6 down. 4 can go into 16 4 times, so 4, and then that would be 16. We'd be left with no remainder, so 4 divided by 56 equals 14. So 26 minus 14, and then we add that 2. All right, and now just go from left to right here. So 26 minus 14, that's going to give us 12, and then plus our 2, that's going to give us a final answer of 14. Let me redo that circle. 14, there we go. And we see 14 is one of our answers here, so we select that, and we got it correct. They give an explanation here, pretty much saying, hey, remember to use PEMDAS. All right, let's move on to the next one here. All right, this one gives us a bunch of numbers, some fractions, some decimals, and it says, which of the following numbers is the greatest? Which one is the biggest, essentially? So go ahead and press pause and see if you can figure this one out on your own. All right, hopefully you gave that one a shot here. The way I would kind of approach this one is I would just convert all these to fractions, and then I'll just compare all the fractions using cross multiplication. All right, so the first one, 2/3, well, that's already a fraction. So I'm just gonna say 2/3 is one of them. The next one is 0.6. How can we bring this into a fraction? Again, move the decimal over 2 places, and that's going to give us 60 over 100. We can simplify this a little bit, divide each one by 2. That's going to give us 30 over 50. We can keep going, divide each one by 2. That's going to give us 15 over 25. Right, yep, and we can divide by 5 for each one now, and that'll give us 3/5. All right, so 60 is the same as 3/5 there. All right, so we have that fraction. Let me go ahead and clear up some of this workspace here. Get the pen back. 13 20-seconds, that's already a fraction, so I was going to write 13 20-seconds. And then, again, we have another decimal that we need to convert. Oops, that's supposed to be 8, so 0.08. Move the decimal place over 2 spots. That's going to be 8 over 100. Again, rewriting that a little bit cleaner. That's 8 over 100. Divide both of them by 2. That's going to give us 4 over 50. Can divide by 2 again, and that's going to give us 2/25. All right, that's supposed to be a 5 there. 2/25. All right, let's go ahead and delete the workspace. And now what we need to do is just use cross multiplication to figure out which one is the biggest one. So I'm going to start with these two right now. I'm going to say 2 over 3 compared to 3 over 5. Which one's bigger? Take the 5, multiply it by the 2. That's going to give us 10 on this side. Take the 3 and multiply it by the 3 over here. That's going to give us 9 on this side. So since 10 is bigger, that means this fraction here is bigger. So 2/3 right now is our winner. All right. So let's go ahead and delete this, and now we are going to compare 2/3 and 13 20-seconds. So again, we're going to follow the same pattern here, where 2/3 compared to 13 20-seconds. All right, 22 times the 2, that's going to be 44. 3 times the 13, what is that? That's going to be 9. That's going to be 39. All right, and then 44 is bigger, which means our 2/3 is still bigger. So we still have 2/3 is the bigger one. So now we are going to compare the 2/3 and the 2/5, or 2/25. Sorry, 2/3 and 2/25. And hopefully we should just be able to kind of see, if we have 2 of 25, if we have something broken into 25 parts and we only have 2 of them, compared to something that's broken into 3 parts and we have 2 of them, we should kind of, sort of conceptually see which one's bigger. But just to check our work, let's go ahead and go through the same process still. And we're going to say 2/3 compared to 2/25 here. Well, take the 25, multiply it by the 2, that's going to be 50. Take the 3, multiply it by the 2, that's going to give us 6. 50 is clearly way bigger than 6, so 2/3 will be our final answer. That is the biggest number out of these 4 numbers here. So I will select 2/3, and we see that is the correct answer. All right. And I guess they just give their way of solving it by converting everything to fractions, or converting everything to decimals rather instead, which I suppose probably would have been the quicker way of solving that one. So if that's what you did, drop it down in the comments below. Say, hey, I solved question number 7 by just converting these fractions all into decimals. That probably would have been an easier way to do it, actually. All right, let's move on here. Oh boy, got some geometry with angles. All right, so in this figure below, lines D and F are parallel, and the angle measures are as given. What is the value of x? All right, so we can see x is right down here. We're given a couple values over here, and we just need to figure out, again, what is the angle value of x? So press pause, take a few minutes, and try and solve this one on your own. All right, so hopefully you attempted that one on your own here. Let's go ahead and solve this one together now. So key distinction here, or a key fact rather, is realizing that they are telling us that D and F are parallel. So if we know anything about parallel lines here, we see that line H goes through both lines D and F, which means that all these angles will be the same. So if this angle here is 120, well then that means that this angle here is also going to be 120. All right. So if this angle is 120, then that means that this angle is also 120. All right. What I'm going to do here actually is real quick, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, make it a lot bigger actually, and then zoom out. All right. That way my numbers don't get too crowded here. All right. There we go. All right, so what we were saying here is that that means this angle here is going to be 120, and that means this angle is also 120 because it's on the other side. This angle is also 120 because it is also on the other side. All right. So we have those angles here. I don't know if that really helps us. Well, that helps us a little bit, actually. Let's see. So let's just keep on going. If this angle here is 35, well, then I know that this angle here is also going to be 35. That's how that helps us. Okay. Because now I have this angle here, and we should again realize that D and F are parallel. So that means if this angle is x, well, then this angle is also x. So I'm going to write an x for there. And now I have this triangle right here where I have one side is 35, one side is x. So if I can figure out what this side is, well, I have a straight line right here where I have 120 on one side. Remember, the angles for a straight line is 180. And if this side is 120, that means this angle here is going to be 180 minus 120, which will give us 60. So I know that this angle here is 60. If this angle is 60, that means that this angle is 60. So now I have all these angles here of 35, 60, and x. Well, again, all the angles inside of a triangle also equals 180. So 180 minus 60 minus 35. Let's see, that's going to 180 minus 60, that's going to give us 120 minus the 35, that'll be 85. So x will equal 85. So this angle here, we can rewrite this angle here as 85. All right. And if this angle is 85 and D and F are parallel, that means this angle is also 85. All right, and we see C is 85 right there, and there we go. That is the correct answer. And they go through a whole explanation of that as well. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. For this next one, they want us to simplify. All right, so simplify this equation here. Press pause and see if you can get this one. All right, again, hopefully you went through that exercise on your own. It just helps so much more, helps you learn a lot better when you actually practice and go through these problems on your own first. So hopefully you did that. Let's go through this one together. All right, we are given here 7y squared plus 3xy. That was a little bit sloppy there. Let's try and clean that up. 3xy minus 9. And then we are going to subtract that by 2y squared plus 3xy minus 5. All right. And now we want to simplify this, try and get this in as small terms as possible. So we can see right off the bat, we have a 7y squared and a 2y squared. So we're just going to, again, subtract them. So if I have 7 of something, in this case my something is a y squared, and I'm going to subtract 2 of those things, well, it's just 7 minus 2, so that's going to leave me with a 5y squared. All right, and I have an xy here. I have 3xy on this side. I have 3xy on this side, so 3xy, remember, minus 3xy. Well, that's going to cancel out, so I have no more xy's anymore. And now I have, now we can move on to these ones. I have a negative 9 minus our negative 5. So let's be careful with our signs here, what we're doing. We have a negative 9 minus a negative 5. And remember, if we see two minus signs together, we can just treat it as a plus sign instead. So really what I'm saying is negative 9 plus 5. So again, think of our number line where this is 0. I'm all the way down here at negative 9, and I'm going this way to add 5 more, and that'll leave me at negative 4. So negative 9 minus a negative 5 is just going to be a negative 4. So I can just plug that right back in. So that's going to be minus 4. So our simplified version of that is going to be 5y squared minus 4. And we can see that is one option right here, 5y squared minus 4. And that is the correct answer. And they give their explanation. Arrange like terms next to each other and try and combine terms to compute the final answer. All right. Let's move on to the next one here. Okay, using some negative exponents. Pretty simple, actually. They want us to do 6.6 times 10 to the negative 4th. So again, press pause, see if you can figure this one out on your own really quick. All right, hopefully you attempted that. Let's see here. So we're given 6.6 times 10 to the negative 4th. Whenever you're multiplying something that is 10 to a negative exponent, all that means is we are going to take this decimal place and move it over 4 spots. In this case, negative 4 spots. So instead of going this way, we're going to be going this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Our decimal place is now here. We need to fill in all these bubbles here with zeros. So our final answer is going to be 0.00066, and that will be our final answer. We can see we have 3 zeros. And this problem here, or this answer here, seems to be the correct one. So we selected that, and that is correct. And yeah, they just say, hey, if it's a negative exponent, essentially remember to move the decimal place this way. If it's a positive exponent, remember to move the decimal place this way. That's pretty much all they're saying there. All right, moving on to the next one here. All right, what is the value of this numerical expression of the square root of 6 squared plus 8 squared? All right, so press pause and try and solve that one on your own. All right, hopefully you attempted that one here. What some people might do right now is they might see this as, okay, I have a square root here where I have 6 squared plus 8 squared. So, hey, I could just say those all cancel out, right? That's actually not the case because we have this expression plus this expression, so they're not really the same. So really what we need to do is evaluate this first, and then evaluate this, and then take the square root, and then do this. Because we can also kind of think of this as like inside of a parentheses, all right? So we kind of need to solve for everything inside of this parentheses before we go and take any square roots. So first we just need to do 6 squared. That's going to be 36, and then that's going to be a plus 8 squared, which is 8 times 8 is 64. All right, 36 plus 64, that's just 100. All right, so we have 100 here, and now we're just taking the square root of 100, which is just square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 equals 100. So hopefully you got that answer right there as well. Again, just got to remember that like when we see the square root, it's kind of essentially saying the same thing as like, hey, you need to solve for that first. Kind of treat that as its own parentheses. All right. And yeah, that's sort of the same logic that they went through in their explanation as well. Let's move on to the next one here. List A consists of the numbers 2, 9, 5, 1, 13, and list B consists of the numbers 7, 4, 12, 15, and 18. If the two lists are combined, what is the median? Here we go, the median of the combined list. So remember, we have the mean, the median, and the mode. The mean means the average, where you add up all the numbers together, and then you divide by the total amount, the total numbers that you had, the total number of numbers that you had, and that will be your average. That will be your mean. The median, remember, is like the middle number. If you sort the numbers from smallest to largest, what number lands right in the middle, and then the mode is the kind of think of that one like the most, which number occurs the most often in your data set. In this case, we are looking for the median, so we want to find the the number that is in the middle here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write both these lists out as one big long list right now. And that's going to be 2, 9, 5, 1, 13, 7, 4, 12, 15, and then 18. And then one way you could do this is, again, just rewrite this list, sorting it from smallest to greatest. Again, given that we have sort of this time limit on the ASVAB, what I would do instead, this is sort of the way I solve it, is I just, again, write this list kind of like what I have right here, and then I just start crossing off in iterations of the smallest and the biggest. So what's the biggest number right now? That's going to be 18. So let's cross that one out. And the smallest one right now is 1. So let's cross that one out. All right. We still have a whole bunch of numbers, so let's do it again. What's the next biggest number? That's going to be 15. Cross that one out. What's the next smallest number? That's going to be 2. Cross that one out. All right. We still have a whole bunch of numbers, so let's do it again. The next biggest number is 13. Cross that out. The next smallest number is 4. Cross that one out. Go again. The next biggest number is 12. Cross that one out. The next smallest number is 5. Cross that one out. Do it again. The next biggest number is 9. The next smallest number is 7. We only have 2 numbers left. So if we had 1 number left, that would be our median. But in this case, we have 2 numbers left. So now when you have 2 numbers, what you need to do is take the average of them. So we're going to take the average of 9 and 7. So remember to take an average. You add up all the numbers that you have. So 9 plus 7, that equals 16. And then we had 2 numbers, so we divide by 2 now. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So the median in our data set is 8. The middle number is 8. And we can see 8 is one of the answers here, so I will select C. And we see that is the correct answer. Yeah, they give their explanation that... So yeah, they take the time to actually sort through the numbers one by one there, and then just figure out what the 2 middle numbers were. And again, since there's an even number of items in the result, you just take the average of those 2 numbers. So 7 plus 9, and then divide that by 2, and that will give you the final result of 8. All right, moving on to the next one here. Simplify that factorial. 6 factorial equals... Press pause and try it on your own. All right, this one's a little bit easier if you can remember what factorial means. Again, factorial just means you're going to take that number and multiply it by all the other numbers that are smaller than it down to 1. All right, so what this means is I have 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 and times 1. The times 1 doesn't really matter because anything times 1 is just that number itself, so we can kind of forget about that one. But let's just go right through it then. We got 6 times 5, that's going to equal 30 times 4. 30 times 4, that's going to be 120, right? Times 3, 120 times 3. Let's see, that's going to be 0, 6, and 3. That's going to be 360. Move up here. 360 is our result here, and now multiply by the 2. That's going to be 0. That's going to be 12. Carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus that 1 is 7. So 720. 6 factorial, which is the explanation mark there, equals 720. And we see, answer B has 720, so we've selected that one, and that is the correct answer there. All right. Moving on to the next one here. Solve. Negative 3 cubed. All right, negative 3 to the 3rd power, negative 3 cubed. They mean the same thing. Press pause and try this one out on your own. All right, hopefully you gave that one a shot here. So again, any number cubed or any number to any exponent is that number times itself that many times. So we're saying we want to multiply negative 3 by itself 3 times. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. I guess looking at the answers here, the only tricky part about this is to sort of know the, is sort of remembering what sign it's going to be. Is it going to be positive or negative? So let's just go right through it. Negative 3 times negative 3. Well, the answer is going to be 9. Now, is it a positive 9 or a negative 9? Remember, when you multiply 2 negative numbers by each other, when you multiply a negative number times a negative number, your answer is going to be positive. All right, so negative times negative equals positive. On the other hand, if you have a negative times a positive, then that's going to equal a negative number. All right, so you got to really try and remember that. Negative times a negative equals a positive, but a negative times a positive equals a negative. All right, so negative 3 times negative 3, that's going to equal positive 9. All right, and now we have a positive, and now that was those two there, so we need to do it one more time. So positive 9 times a negative 3. Though that's going to be 27, and now remember, we have a positive times a negative. Positive times a negative will equal a negative, so it's going to be negative 27. So negative 3 cubed will equal negative 27. And we see that as answer D there, so I will select D, and that is the correct answer there. All right, moving on to the next one here. All right, if 6w plus 4 equals 8w, then 4w equals what? All right, so it seems to be a little bit of an algebra problem, so go ahead and press pause and see if you can get this one on your own. All right, let's go ahead and try this one together here. I'm just going to rewrite the equation here. We have 6w plus 4 equals 8w. Or I guess rather, if 6w plus 4 equals 8w, then what does 4w equal? So hopefully you should be able to figure out that, okay, well, we need to figure out what w equals then. In order to figure out what 4w equals, we first need to understand and know what w is. So for this equation here, let's solve for w. So I have 6w's on this side. I'm going to subtract 6w's on this side then. That way those two cancel out. And that means I need to subtract 6w's on this side. That's going to give me 4 equals, if I have 8w's minus 6w's, that's going to give me 2w's. All right. And now to get w by its side, I need to divide by 2. Divide by 2. Those 2's will cancel out. 4 divided by 2 equals 2. So that means w equals 2. Now we know what w is. We can just plug that back into our other equation here that we need to figure out. So if this equation here, so if w equals 2 essentially, then what is 4w? What is 4w? All right, well, just substitute in 2 for w. So what is 4 times 2? And that's just going to be equal, 8 there. All right, so our final answer is 8, which happens to be D. If we select that, we see that as the correct answer. And yeah, the first step is to just solve for w, just like we did. And then you plug it back into the original equation that you want to solve for. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. And this one says to factor 4y times 3x plus 2 minus 2 times 3x plus 2. So press pause and see if you can get this one on your own. All right, so again, hopefully you attempted that one here. Let's just go ahead and try this out on our own now, or together rather. We are going to say 4y times 3x plus 2. That was minus 2 times 3x plus 2. All right, and hopefully we can see similar terms here where we have a 3x plus 2 and a 3x plus 2. So what this means is we can actually extract out this expression here. We can extract out the 3x plus 2 into its own side. And we're just going to now say that is a 3x plus 2 on its own side. And, well, that's just going to leave us with this 4y minus 2y. And we can just put that over on this side. That's going to be 4y minus 2. All right, so now that's actually going to be our factor term. That's what it's going to be. Given our answers over here, they're not making us do FOIL or anything else, so this will be what the equation is going to be. It's going to be 4y minus 2 times 3x plus 2. That happens to be answer A there, right? 4y minus 2 times 3x plus 2. Yeah, that should be A. And I click that, and that is the correct answer. And we see their explanation of it is any part of an expression that is common to every term in the expression can be factored out. So yes, we can, like I said, we can just extract out the 3x plus 2 because it happens on both terms essentially. In this case, yeah, the 3x plus 2 is a common term, and that can be factored out. from both parts of the expression. And that just sort of leaves us with that 4y minus 2 on the other side, since we had to distribute it all the way through. And yeah, that was all 16 questions. So comment down below if you were able to get most of those, or if there's anything that you were a little bit confused on and you want to talk about it a little bit more, and help us, and we can try and explain and walk through it a little bit easier. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to subscribe, like this video if you found this one helpful, because it really does help the whole YouTube algorithm stuff. And yeah, hit subscribe, because I have plenty of other videos that sort of go through a lot of these topics that we just went through in this math knowledge test here. So again, if there's any problem that you were kind of stuck on or didn't really remember, check out my ASVAB Math Bootcamp playlist here on YouTube, and just kind of brush up on some of these different math concepts that you might be a little bit rusty on. Maybe it's been a while since you went through these different concepts and everything else. So yeah, again, thanks for walking through this with me, and I will see you all next time.